everyone, so today I thought I'd share with you how to remove acrylic nails. So I'm going to go through real quick what you're going to need. First thing you're going to need is 100% pure acetone. That's what I have in here, and that's not fingernail polish, that's 100% acetone. I get mine at Target. You can get it at Sally's, Target, Walgreens, any place like that. You're going to also need a little glass cup or dapping dish, whatever you have. I'm going to be using this dapping dish. You're going to need a cuticle pusher or an orange wood stick, something that you can scrape your nail with once it's soaked. You're going to also either need a nail file or an electric file. I'm going to be using the electric file for this tutorial just because it's quicker, but you could totally use a hand file. I have a medium grit carbine bit here on the tip, and this is just one of those cheap $15 e-files, and I got it on eBay a couple years ago. You're going to also need a pair of fingernail clippers, and then you're going to need aluminum foil. So what I do is I just rip a piece of aluminum foil, and then I take that piece and I rip it into thirds. And this is about the size that I use. You could probably go a little bit smaller. If this was my pinky, I would cut this piece in half. But since I'm showing you on my pointer finger, this is about the size that you want. The other thing you're going to need is some gauze, or here I have some paper towels that I've actually just cut into little strips. And what I would do is I take my little dapping dish and I take my little strips, I make sure I have 10 of them, and I actually fold them up and stack them on top of each other inside the dapping dish. And then I add the acetone on top of that. That way when I'm doing all my fingers, after I have them all filed and ready to go, I can just pull out one piece at a time, and I don't have to worry about re-dipping or saturating a piece. So when we get there, I'll show you. You can also use gauze or lint-free wipes and just cut them into fourths or in half, depending what you have. Cotton balls work great too. The only thing I don't like about cotton balls is sometimes they leave little stringy bits, but other than that, they're fine. So I'll be right back to show you how to file the nail. First thing we're going to do is we're going to actually get rid of the length on the nail. Because I have 3D art on my nail, I'm going to actually etch it out and then take the tip off that way. You could come in with your clippers and just clip the sides and do it that way. But because I have this piece of nail art here, I need to take that off first. So I'm just going to use this to do that. So again, I'm using a medium carbine bit to do it, and I'm not going to go up into my nail or anything. All I'm doing is taking off first the 3D flower, the stone, and then I'm going to etch out the tip of the nail. I'm not going to start filing on the acrylic at all at this point, aside from the design and the tip. So at this point you can see I've just kind of etched out a little groove there. Now I'm going to take my clippers and I'm just going to clip right into that groove. And I'm just going to simply snap that off, and that just gets rid of the excess length. So now at this point what we need to do is we need to actually bring down the acrylic and bring it to our natural nail, but we're not going to file our natural nail. You could at this point take your file and then you would just by hand slowly and carefully file, continuing to move so that you don't burn yourself. And then you would just be really careful around the cuticle here. You're not going to file into your actual nail. You do not have to take the acrylic completely down. That's what we're going to use the acetone for, to continue to dissolve that so that we don't hurt our natural nail bed. So like I said, you could just file it this way. It takes a little bit longer. I'm going to actually use my electric file just because I'm on camera and it's going to take quicker, but I am not going to go into the tip here at all. I'm not going to go way down here. I'm going to actually stop a little bit before, and I'm only going to barely do that area, and I'm going to move constantly as I'm doing it. I'm not going to sit in one place for a long time because, again, that will burn your nail and you'll feel it. And I'm going to mostly concentrate here on the tip just to bring down this thickness and to break the seal that is on there from the top coat. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and I'll be right back. So now at this point I have most of the acrylic down, and you can actually see it there. So I would come in with my hand file and I would continue to do that, working my way down, but I'm still not going to concentrate here on the next to the cuticle because I don't want to damage that, and there's only a little bit of acrylic there, so really you don't need to work too much. I'm just bringing down the body of the actual acrylic that's laid down. So again, just by hand, I'm going to continue going, and I'm constantly moving. I'm not staying in one spot, and I'm only going on the tip and right here where your stress point is, because that's where you're going to have the majority of your acrylic. And then I'm just going to take the clippers and kind of clean up my edges. And then to file that down, I'm using the 100-180 grit file. So I've got that down pretty close. I don't want to go any further for fear that I'm going to actually end up injuring. So I'm leaving a little bit of the acrylic. You can clearly see that there's still color and glitter and clear acrylic there. At this point, what you're going to need to do is you're going to need to bring over your aluminum foil, your little dap-in dish with your little pieces of paper, and your 100% acetone. And what I like to do is I just have my little pieces of paper in there already, and I just pour a little bit of acetone until they're saturated. That way I'm not wasting any of my product, and they're good and saturated for when I need it. So at this point what I do is I just set down my foil, I have my nail ready to go, I have my paper saturated with the acetone. I'm going to actually take the piece of paper and I'm going to set it down on the foil itself, and then I'm going to turn my finger and set it directly onto the piece of paper towel, and then I fold over one side of that, and then I fold over the other and I wrap it around, and then I just bring the tip and I twist it up, and then I smash the sides to make sure that it's secure. And then you would continue to do this to all of your fingers once you have them all sanded down and the acrylic removed as much as possible without getting down to the natural nail. Now you're going to leave this for 20 minutes, and I'll be right back as soon as that 20 minutes is up. So it's been 20 minutes, and now it's time to take off the aluminum foil. You're going to need your cuticle scraper cuticle remover at this point. So you're just going to simply pull your finger out, and you can see that the acrylic's actually kind of swelled up and almost looks jelly-like. And you're just going to use your cuticle scraper, and you're just going to scrape that down. Now, depending on your brand of acrylic is going to determine how many times you're going to actually have to soak that off and how close to the nail you got. So you're not actually pushing too hard, you're doing it rather softly. So on mine now, there's still quite a bit of acrylic here, and some glitter, and then some colored acrylic right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and reapply my form, or my aluminum foil here. I'm going to actually put a couple more drops of acetone on there. Just to resaturate that. If yours is still wet, you don't have to do that. So I'm just going to take my finger, I'm going to stick it back in there. I'm going to wait another 10 minutes because there isn't very much acrylic left, and I'll be right back. Alright, so it's been 10 more minutes, and I just had a little bit of the acrylic left. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to actually pinch on the top here, and I'm going to kind of pull. I'm going to put pressure as I'm pulling it off to kind of help scrape off that acrylic, because by now it should be pretty soft. There was only a little bit left on there, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. And then it looks like most of it came off, so you're just going to come in. If you have any acrylic left, you would just come in and scrape it off. It looks like I got most of it. So at this point, what you would do is you would go ahead and get your buffing block or whatever, if you had any bits of acrylic left, which it looks like mine's pretty clean, and you would just gently buff away any little bits of acrylic that might be left, and then wash your hands and apply your cuticle oil or top coat. So I hope you guys enjoyed the tutorial, and as always, thank you guys for watching.